higher education stay relevant today while also preparing students for a future yet to be imagined? This is Think Forward with Rose, the leadership podcast dedicated to elevating leadership voices, advancing excellence, and addressing critical issues shaping higher education. Today I'm joined by Dr. Jeanine Mingé, Dean of the School of Liberal Arts and Business at SUNY Oneonta. Jeanine has driven transformative efforts that ground students in the now while preparing them for what's next. She founded the Equity Institute and helped secure a $300,000 Teagle implementation grant, strengthening civic education and building community partnerships. Together, we'll explore the timelessness value of education and how that meets the urgent realities of today, where tradition meets transformation. Jeanine, welcome to Think Forward.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I feel very honored to be here.
Well, this is going to be a really great conversation because, as you know, I'm really interested in having those conversations about the reality of higher education. And there is a posing question that's going on is what is the value of higher education today? What does it mean to be an educated person in today's world? But I want to back up a little bit. I'd like to start with you, your career, your journey. I see you as being a real visionary in leadership, especially throughout the community engagement piece and throughout higher education. And I see you shaking your head. So I know that you have that sense of fulfillment, that sense of promise. I'm sure there have been some pivotal moments that have shaped your career, that have really been part of this journey that you've been on in terms of leading people. Can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. I began my career at Cal State University Northridge in Los Angeles, where I was given the opportunity to direct something called the Performance Ensemble. We called it Creatives for Social Justice. Mm-hmm. And I worked with an incredible group of students and faculty and community partners to create transformative experiences for not only our students, but also for our community partners. So I watched in those spaces personal stories come to life on stage. And so our students were asked to think about, transitional moments in their lifetime, moments of joy, moments of hardship, moments of co-creation around issues that are difficult to talk about, that our society seems to be leaning away from. I'm not quite sure where that fear is coming from, but to talk about personal identity in a brave space is actually profound. And it leads to personal growth and I would say collective transformation. And so that work with the Performance Ensemble in the classroom, in the community, we worked with ACE students, Opportunity Youth in Canoga Park, which is one of the more difficult spaces in Los Angeles for folks who live there to have the best experiences in education and pipelines to higher education. And mm-hmm. So we created a pipeline in some way about for those students in Canoga Park. And I saw that transformation happening in real time. And as I stepped into leadership roles as the director of community engagement at Cal State University Northridge, and later as the associate vice chancellor at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, it really helped teach me that leadership is not about control. Leadership is about listening deeply. It's about guiding with care. It's about understanding the needs of our youth, of our students in higher education, and balancing that with the needs of our folks in the community, and that includes our career pathways. And really taking that time to be a transformational leader really means listening deeply, and caring profoundly about the answers you're hearing, and then taking those answers and using them, those answers, to guide transformational change in higher education. And if we aren't listening, then we're missing the mark.
Yeah. Well said. Just well said. I'm a big proponent of transformational leadership. Influence is what I'm hearing come through. Consideration, how you are inspiring. You use those phrases, guiding with care, cultural transformation, listening deeply. I'm sure encouraging the heart is also part of this. On your journey, these important principles of how you lead became very transparent to the students in which, the community in which you became a part of and you wanted to help to influence. I'm sure along the way there was someone who modeled this for you, someone that you looked up to, mentored you. Can you share a little bit about that?
I can, and it goes all the way back to high school. It really does. It goes back to my experience with a teacher, Maureen Ackerman, who modeled for me taking the moment to pause with people when they're struggling. Education is not just about the system that we exist in. It's about the people that co-create it. And what Maureen, Mrs. Ackerman, we called her, she actually was affectionately called Ma, would do is when she recognized that a student was struggling or a student needed an extra moment, she would take the time to say, hey, do you want to step and talk? Do you want to find time to talk and connect? And she made space for those connections. And I know that feels so long ago, but she profoundly touched lives. She became a model for educating with care and listening deeply.
Yeah.
And even in those hard times, I think she gave great advice. She also made me feel really brave. Like, you know what? This might be really scary for you right now, but you can go give that speech. She helped with the commencement speech, and she was in speech and debate and did all of those things. And she said, "You can give this speech." And I was like, "I can't do this." And I just remember that moment of her looking me straight in the eyes and saying, "I believe in you. I've seen you do this before, and I know you can do it again." And she also challenged me in other ways. It wasn't always Pollyanna. It was, "Jeanine, what you're doing right now is not quite what you need to be doing." And then she would model for me what I needed to be doing. So a lot of it was both that presence, but then the challenge to become better.
Yeah.
And modeling what that looks like.
Well, Maureen, I don't know where you are, but the work that you did so long ago has truly inspired a wonderful transformational leader today. So I, for one, am thanking Maureen for doing that because clearly it's been paid forward. As an educator, and it's no surprise here, I've said this many times before, I started my career as an elementary school teacher. Seeing students come back who were first generation college students and say, I really believed I could go on and complete my college degree because you made me believe. Sometimes it's just in those moments that have nothing to do with what's going on in that particular subject and everything to do with making the connection and having the conversation, pausing, like you said, letting silence kind of rule the day to give people time to deeply think and reflect. You were challenged in ways, I'm sure, that a lot of people didn't have the trust, the equity built up to be able to challenge you in that way. So your value of education, your value of community became much stronger because of Maureen. So let's talk about the value of higher education today. It's often questioned. I started with, what is the value of higher education today? Is it about a life of meaning and purpose? Is it about the credential? or even the certificate. So what do you see as the most enduring purpose of higher education?
I might channel John Dewey here, and I truly believe that the most enduring purpose of higher education is connecting learning to the greater good.
Mm.
It is about degrees and credentials because that does help our students on their path forward and into their lives to get the right job that they want and or move up in the on their ladders and but it's also about cultivating compassionate community members who have skills and imagination, who want to contribute to our communities and to our shared future. And I think higher education is truly about the greater good. Mm-hmm. And that happens in every single discipline. That doesn't happen just in the humanities, let's say. And I one of the pieces that I oversee is the humanities, and I deeply believe in the value of humanities. But the connection of learning in higher education and finance and connecting that to the greater good is just as important as doing that in, let's say, communication studies, which is my background. We have a shared future together. We have a responsibility to one another as community members in this society. Mm-hmm. And I think higher education reminds us of that. It empowers us to grow in these ways that ripple outward. It strengthens families. It strengthens neighborhoods, industries, democracies. It grounds us in social purpose. It grounds us. It bridges that personal transformation and I think collective well-being.
Yeah. Let's stay on connecting to the greater good for a moment. And sure. Let's look at it from the student perspective. Mm-hmm. Help us here. Give us some advice. Give us some ways that we can practically connect to the greater good that would really impact students. So I want to look at that question from the student's perspective, not from what we think would connect them. So help us out here.
Okay, sure. Well, I can give examples from my own classroom or from programs that exist at the university today. So we'll say in accounting. So I oversee, in the School of Liberal Arts and Business, one of the fields I oversee is accounting. And there we have our VITA program, which is income tax assistance to our lower income populations. And our students are trained to, and it's a very well-oiled machine led by Dr. Charlene Foley Deno, excuse me. And she has the introductory students become the greeters. She has the more advanced students become those that are actually helping ask the questions for the tax preparation. And then the ever more advanced students reviewing those files with her. And she has served over 300 community members in this last year do their tax preparations. Wow. The students that are involved in this process see that their work in accounting is not just, about, the money they might make at their big firm, right? And it's very possible that that's also a benefit. But what they see is that collective well-being, that they are serving folks that need more support than others. And they feel empowered. They feel really a sense of purpose, we always say that in higher education, purpose and belonging. Purpose and belonging. Well, what does that really mean? That means connecting to our community. That means giving back. That means understanding our skills and how our skills can offer more to our community.
You're really focused in the now, because this is very different than how students have been a part of their journey, their educational journey in the past. So when we think about initiatives that are going on throughout higher education that are really doing what it is you're doing, what Charlene is doing, in representing accounting in a different way. She's actually encouraging students to look at it through a different lens by providing these practical opportunities for them to see their role in different ways. And that's really preparing them for now, because accounting of the past is not accounting of the future.
Right.
And I'm really about looking at what's transformative. That can lead our students forward into the realities of what their work environment is going to be. So, if we want to support students in the now, what do we need to do as educators in practice?
I think the first step is that deep listening.
Yeah.
I think oftentimes we'll say C-suite executives, the administrators, the upper level administrators, this is not a knock on us, but this is something that happens. We lose the connection to the students, and we think we're solving problems without asking them if there's a problem. And we come up with all of these software solutions that we think that might be the right answer for them, and without that deep listening I talked about in the beginning, to our students, I don't know that we're making the right moves. So I would say for students in the now, they're facing unprecedented challenges. There's been a increase in mental health concerns, and I'm not quite sure if that's because we have a better vocabulary and understanding of mental health concerns, or if there's to be able to talk about it
right.
in higher education, or if there's truly an increase in mental health concerns that we need to address. So I think there's probably a bit of both. Financial pressures, the uncertainty of higher education. I mean, we have all the pressure that's coming down from our current administration around Pell Grant recipients. I mean, there's a lot of pressures facing, especially those that are more at-risk populations, I'll say.
Yeah.
So supporting our students in the now means meeting them where they are, but that means asking them, where are you? And how can we meet you where you are?
Yeah.
I would also say at SUNY Oneonta, we really focus on holistic support for our students, and we try to work really closely with student affairs. We do work closely with student affairs, not try. We really do work closely with them to create these support mechanisms, to try to remove the barriers, to make sure that we're catching students before they leave us, right? Because once a student has gone silent, we've lost them. And we want the deep listening to occur before they go silent.
You talk about the deep listening piece, and we've explored a little bit of that, but you said something that has really sparked wonder and curiosity in me. And for those of you listening and viewing, my hope is that there will be something that is sparking wonder and curiosity in you, and you'll ask the question. I always say we don't have to have all the answers, but we need to ask the questions and then be part of the conversation. And I said be part of the conversation to share opinions, perspectives, and get into some healthy debate. But what you talked about that sparked that for me was the holistic approach. And you brought in mental health. And so if we're really holistically listening, educating our students, what does that look like in the reality of what we're experiencing right now throughout higher education?
Right. I think it looks like having the support mechanisms in place and the communication channels in place for those on the ground in the classroom with their students that recognize that a student is struggling, to be able to say, we use a certain software, so I won't mention it now, but we have a software program that we use that we can push a button and say, hey, I just want to alert this team, and this team that this student is struggling. I haven't seen them in the past 3, class times. I've reached out. I haven't heard back. Can the counseling center try to reach out? Mm-hmm. Can student affairs try to, try to find them. Can we connect with their RA to see if they're still in their residence hall? And so it's kind of this, push the button to make sure that all of our people are working cohesively and coherently and communicating with one another to uncover what's actually happening with that student. Because oftentimes it's not the content of the course that's challenging. It's financial concern that might have come up. It's a family concern that might have come up. It's a struggle to get home. It's a struggle to buy groceries. It's a struggle to buy the art supplies that they might need. And so just trying to pinpoint what their need is before they go silent and we lose them, and they withdraw from the university. That's what I mean. We have those mechanisms in place to do that. And I feel really grateful that we do, and that we're a caring, compassionate university. Kevin McClure, this is a really great book that just came out. He's from Wilmington. He was a faculty member at University of North Carolina, Wilmington. Kevin McClure wrote a book called The Caring University. And I reference him because he talks about what does it mean to be a caring university. And I think that is one of the ways that we can actually do that.
What a powerful question. What does it mean to be a caring university today?
Yeah.
In so many vision statements, you see the word student success. We hear the phrases of belonging or inclusion. We hear people talk about the vision of what it means to educate today for a better world tomorrow.
Right.
But it all starts, like you said, with that connection, with the caring piece, with developing the whole student. These aren't new processes. No. These aren't new slogans, so to speak, for any education, whether you're primary, K-12, community college, university, postgraduate, it doesn't matter. It's really about forming that connection, listening deeply. I always say, notice what you're noticing, and then act on what you're noticing.
Right.
And if you aren't sure, ask the question. And I know that students may be asked the question, but as you mentioned, fear giving the true answer. And why is that? I always think it stems back to trust. One of the things that Stephen M.R. Covey says in his book, The Speed of Trust, is that most organizational issues are trust issues in disguise. And so when we think about our role as educators, I always think the first step is extending trust, believing in the good of the student. You mentioned pushing a button and being able to, figure that out. And so there is some innovation that's going on. And in higher education right now, we're struggling with both the traditional part of education and then the innovation part of education. So where do you see opportunities for us as leaders, as educators, as administrators to really be bold in this process, but still honor the roots of academia? Yeah.
I love that question. I think that the roots of academia are always, it's about inquiry, it's about discovery, it's about dialogue, it's about brave dialogues.
Yeah.
And we need those now more than ever. Mm. We need brave dialogues more than ever without the fear of repercussion. Mm. So bold change honors those traditions in academia, but then also reimagines how we might deliver on those. For me, it's about connecting to real life. I think that was my big thing in all of my educational career was, how does this connect to the real world? Was my kind of, that was my young voice. How does this make any difference in the world? And the teachers were always like, oh, here's her question again. But I truly believe that. So if we are talking about inquiry, discovery, and brave dialogues, how do we have them right now in a fraught time? So I think bold change starts with answering that question. How do we have those bold dialogues in a fraught time? I think people are scared to have them. I think we see it in our social media worlds, people speaking up and then people saying, I can't speak up. And then people in the classroom saying, I don't want to speak up anymore. And that's quite frightening for higher education. I also think, and I do want to kind of shift a little bit, because when we innovate with intention, we have to recognize what's outside of the academic world for their career pathways. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, AI, everyone's talking about it. It's the big thing. It's the new industrial revolution, or maybe it's the tech bubble burst, and we'll see. But it's something we have to face, and that we are facing as a university. Yeah. Challenging, I think, the preparing our students to use the technology in ways that are ethical, and grounded in their true understanding of how that technology works. Because I think what we're missing, and this came up in a conversation with that just yesterday. We have an AI task force, and my subcommittee is on ethics, governance, and sustainability. Yeah. And the folks in that room talked about students are using it. We're using it. We're checking our email, whether or not it's clear enough, and we're chatting in ChatGPT, and they don't understand that when they do that, it's feeding the algorithm in what they call the plagiarism machine. So they have a very big opinion on it, those that actually know how this works. And then I spoke with an alumni recently who's a very successful alumni, a CEO of Gap. He invented Care Bears, for goodness sakes. Loved that as a kid. And he said it is the next industrial revolution. Yeah. And our students need to know how to use these technologies. So there's varying, opinions about artificial intelligence in the ways that it exists now. I mean, artificial intelligence has been around in different iterations forever, right? But how it exists now, we need to think about how do we innovate with intention. Yeah. So don't just, train them all how to use it. Have them also critically think about what happens when they're using it. Right. What are the implications there?
And that's the grounded piece that I hear you talking about so clearly. So if we go back to definitely my lifetime, probably yours as well. I don't want to date you, but I'm having this feeling you're going to, keep smiling when I say this. Having an answering system in my home as a high schooler was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
We had 2 different phone numbers because my father did a lot of work on the business phone. And so it needed to free up our personal phone. So we thought that we were big time on the block because we had 2 different phone numbers and an answering machine. I remember the first very large flat screen TV we got. And then the recorder, the video recorder, that was huge. Yes, right. And then look where we are now. My first cell phone looked like a briefcase. Right. In my car. Right. I received my degrees on a word processor. Now we have emails replacing communication, actual communication. I had a conversation yesterday with someone, and they were saying, well, I've emailed them about 3 times and I'm not getting a response. And I said, well, did you ever think about picking up the phone and calling them? I mean, that was like groundbreaking information. And so I hear what you're saying in terms of staying grounded. And that goes right back to holistic approach, listening deeply, connecting with people. If we are solely focused on the AI innovations, which I'm a fan of, I'm a big fan of, but I agree with what you're saying is how are we using this? What is our intent? And let's be clear on that.
Right.
So if you had the power, and today I'm giving you that power, I'm saying you do have the power to change one thing in higher education, and you could do this tomorrow, what would that be? I know there are so many things you're probably thinking, and to narrow it down to one thing can be challenging.
I would love to see a revival of the community spirit on college campuses. I would love to see students on the quad interacting with professors. I would love to see difficult dialogues happening in a way that is productive. I would, if I could change one thing, it would be the revival of this idea that we are in it together, even if we have varying perspectives and that we have complex identities interacting with one another. That's the point. I mean, that's one of the points of higher education and to be on a college campus. And the fear that exists right now on college campuses is stifling voices to the point that I think that we're not having those incredibly brave conversations that we need to have to be that society that we want to be.
Right.
So if I could change one thing, it would be alleviating that fear and creating spaces for connectedness, true connectedness. That's not, on this.
Right.
machine.
We'd like the beautiful Rockwell picture to become our reality.
Right.
We'd like to put the community engagement piece back in our community colleges, in our universities, college systems, people looking at each other as opposed to looking down.
Right. Right.
It's more having a conversation that's more than 164 characters or 200 words or something like that. But real debate, open, honest, free, just being able to have an opinion and sharing that without, as you mentioned, the fear or the repercussions of that. And how do we build that trust back into our community right now? Some powerful questions for all of us to be curious about, to wonder about, but not stop there. The whole purpose of this is to have the conversation, to be the one leader on that campus that's going to be the brave one. And that's how I look at you, is you just mentioned having those conversations with your team, posing these questions and providing the space and the time and the environment for those to be part of it. And that's what this podcast is about. And I'm so happy that you were here today and you were sharing your thoughts. And you're going to leave me wondering all day long on how I can continue to ask questions and then be part of that deep listening piece. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, there's something that I do at the very end. Okay. I started my podcast, Think Forward with Rose. So now this is the fast forward, fun, lightning round portion. And so the first thought that comes to your mind, this is going to be very quick. And I have 5 questions for you. Are you ready? Are you ready to play?
I'm ready to play.
Okay. All right. What was your first job and what did it teach you about leadership?
First job, I was a host at Boulder Creek Steaks and Saloon. And I was 16 or 15, 16, I think, in New York is when you could start working. And it taught me what a good leader looked like and what a poor leader looked like, because I had 2 models of leadership in my bosses. Sorry, I shouldn't probably mention the name of the restaurant, but I think it's long gone. And I think they are long gone from that position. But it truly taught me that the one that spoke with us and not at us was what a leader looked like and was.
If you could design one, quote, dream course for every student to take, what would that be?
I believe that we need to have a course that connects our students to our community. Okay. And that is, and of course, with my community engagement background, that you probably saw that coming.
Yes, I did.
And it needs to have not only the disciplinary perspective, but the disciplinary perspective in action. Mm-hmm. So our students can see that these theories that they're learning in the classroom are applicable to the real world.
Okay. What book, podcast, other than this one, or piece of art has most inspired your leadership?
Oh. So I am also a practicing yogi, practicing always. So it's hard to even use the word yogi, we'll say. But there's a book about the Zen, the art of, the art of Zen leadership.
Okay.
And so there are just small phrases of what it means to be a leader and through challenges with this perspective from the Zen perspective.
Okay. So. Higher education in 10 years will be?
Hopefully not still trying to catch up.
Okay. If you could have dinner with any leader, past or present, who would it be and why?
This is probably going to show my politics, but I truly believe that Barack Obama is a leader that showcases the care that it takes to connect to people from all walks of life. Yeah. The other one I would say, and of course this is probably another obvious one, but Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. And his colleagues, because he had a whole host of colleagues. We worked very closely with Reverend Lawson at Cal State University in Northridge, who was one of his colleagues. So I would love to talk to them.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your vision. Today, you've helped us see higher education not only as it is, but where the realities of students today meet the timeless promise of learning. And I, for one, as an educator, so appreciate that. And as we move forward, may we all carry this challenge to reimagine education in ways that are both relevant and transformative. This podcast is really about where tradition meets transformation. And I think you heard that today, loud and clear, where the future of higher education begins. So I encourage you all to subscribe to Think Forward with Rose so you never miss an episode. More importantly, though, share it with a colleague or a friend. Pose the question. Think about one of the questions that we had today and have that conversation. And if I can support you in any way with your own leadership journey, I'd love to connect. So visit me at ourleadershipjourney.com. Until next time, let's keep bridging what's enduring with what's emerging in higher education. Thanks for joining us today. Be well.